Remember to ring-a-ling the... God damn it, now I said it.
Yes, tell your friends, tell your family, this is back. So here's the thing, right? iMessage has been around for a number of years at this point. If
Since
you use an iPhone,
2008?
has it been that long?
So iMessage came out in October 12th, 2011. It's 10 years old.
2011?
At least
That's
according to
less.
Wikipedia.
Wow. Before iMessage existed, there was the dark days of SMS.
I like you say it's dark days, like it's gone. That's still what we're
Well, no,
using.
but the thing is, iMessage was actually legitimately ahead of the curve, right? So not only do you have things like read receipts and far better image quality and video quality, you also have a decoupling of your phone number and your iMessage, right? So you can still iMessage someone's phone number if you want, but you also could set up an iMessage without a phone number at all, and you can take it with you wherever you want. Whereas SMS, limited to 160 characters.
Something like that. You mentioned that you could not even have a phone number. I know that's how I got into iMessage, because I was using an iPod Touch. This is also a time when it cost a lot of money to text people. Having something that was free to text was huge.
The problem is that has just made SMS look even older, and as soon as you get a green bubble person in your group chat or something, everything falls apart. You've got like those like blank person loved blank message, blah, 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 quote, quote, quote. Like it gets to be a complete disaster almost immediately. And it's left Android users will have obviously a hugely sour taste in their mouth, because anytime you have a text message with someone who has green bubbles on the Apple side, you're completely losing all your functionality. And did I mention the image quality?
This argument is not new. It's been going on for a while. It's been going, years it's been going on.
Yeah.
So in 2014, this is when they said Android, they didn't say Android, but they said your friend's inferior devices, which was anything that wasn't Apple.
But then we have these green bubble friends. And, they have inferior devices.
So that's what, 8 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
However, the reason we're talking about it now is because the VP for Google, Hiroshi Lockheimer,
Yep.
had just tweeted about it and saying like it's them bullying customers to lock them in to use iMessage is bad for the industry, is bad for consumers. I think it's a little ridiculous that Google, of all people, can come and say that it's all Apple's fault. No one's fault but theirs. I don't know.
Okay, so there's a lot to this story, right? So, like you said, it's been around for a long time, but really only in the last few weeks has it kind of sort of bubbled back up again. So, pun intended. So, what basically
Was that a
Google's
blue or a
stance
green
here,
bubble?
that was definitely a green bubble in that one. Google's stance here is that Apple should adopt RCS. It really is the sort of the successor to SMS. You have things like read receipts, you have things like better encryption, you have things like actually usable photos and video over SMS, or RCS in this case. And the thing is, Google's really pushed this hard, mostly because not everyone wants to use like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or whatever. So having that capability is nice. And honestly, carriers specifically here in the US have done a fairly good job of finally incorporating RCS. The problem though is that the iPhone does not support RCS, which means that it's still got that ancient, terrible green bubble sort of life. I totally am sympathetic to the argument that Apple should pick this up, because think about it. If they enable RCS, not to remove iMessage, iMessage can continue, but having RCS as the fallback in addition to SMS, I think will make an enormous amount of sense, because that way you would still have some of that cross compatibility with things like, better photos. You also have the idea that you could theoretically send things like some reactions or whatever that would actually be fairly cross-platform. The problem though is that Timmy Cook has zero
Stop using my mic.
reason to ever do this. Do you know how valuable it is for Apple to make the peasants with the green bubbles look bad? I mean, if you use an
agree with
iPhone
that.
and someone with an Android texts you or gets in the group chat, it ruins everything. Why would they ever throw that away? I mean, that would be a terrible marketing and business decision, even though it would be great for everyone else.
But there is that group of people who really care about this, and there are some subtle things that Apple has kind of done, whether it's intentional or not.
That does kind of predate though, because originally the Messages app on iPhone just did SMS before iMessage even existed. So to be fair, the green bubbles have always been there. It's just that blue bubbles came in, and they're the cool hot bubbles, and everyone wants to be them. And then all the Android people are stuck with the green bubbles, and they look lame.
I agree. I want Apple to open this up. However, a lot of people keep forgetting that we're talking about businesses here, and it's their whole goal to make the most amount of money that they can make. I don't think iMessage is better than any other particular app. I don't think it's better than like WhatsApp. But I do think it's the best default app of any device out of the box. And I think that's the key distinction. We were talking about if we want to switch to like WhatsApp. That's a very common argument here.
Of course.
Most of the world uses WhatsApp, stuff like that. Yeah. If I want to get that experience with everyone, that means every single person I talk to has to use WhatsApp.
Sure.
Now, am I going to convince my parents who barely know how to work their iPhone to download another app? They are going to use the default messaging app, which is the best one on I think is
Well,
iMessage.
so like one of my favorite things about iMessage is that a lot of customer service things are on iMessage. So all the major carriers, at least here in the US, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, they have customer service built into iMessage already, and it's almost faster to message them on iMessage than it is to call them.
Right. One of the things we could talk about with culture too is a lot of the reason that most of the world uses WhatsApp is from necessity, not convenience. The US is one of the only countries where text messages are included in the text messaging plan. We don't pay for text messages anymore.
Yeah.
So using something like WhatsApp is a necessity to not have a $400, $500 bill.
You were up all night texting your crush on your Razor.
It's this whole idea that carriers are, that iPhone is bullying customers to use their platform.
Which they are.
It's unfair for it to be so one-sided against Apple. I'm not saying they're not doing this. This is very real. I lost friends because I had Singular at the time, which is now AT&T, but they had Verizon or someone had T-Mobile. And you actually could not text them without paying 25 cents a text. You had groups of friends like, oh, we're the Verizon group of friends, and we're the Singular group of friends. I actually had a girl dump me.
Oh, wait. For real?
Yes. A high school girlfriend broke up with me because she got in trouble from her dad because we were texting. She was on Verizon. I was on Singular. Can someone tell me how that's not bullying? Google is bullying carriers to carry RCS.
Yes.
So it's the same thing.
For most people, iMessage is what your family or friends use. But other than that, you're going to be using Discord. You're going to be using WhatsApp. You're going to be using Instagram or Facebook or Twitter DMs if you're Austin Evans and you're old. Like, there are so many messaging platforms out there. It makes sense, in my opinion, for SMS to go away. It is so old, so crappy, so limited in the characters. I mean, SMS was designed as a way to like take advantage of the tiny little bits of airtime that your 2G network wasn't using when you were on a phone call or something, right? I don't think anyone can argue that RCS is not an upgrade over SMS.
No, it's a huge upgrade.
And a ton of people still use text messages, right? Yeah. I mean, I think most people on Android are not really using text that often, but in a lot of countries, including the US, texting is kind of like the default kind of way that you can get a hold of someone. You know that that's gonna work. I totally understand Google pushing this, and I totally understand Google calling Apple out. I think it's a very reasonable thing, right? But on the other side, the temptation from Timmy Apple to block this from ever happening is way too strong. Now, if Apple is forced to do it, if there's some anti-competitive nonsense or carriers really get sort of strong about it, but like, I don't think anyone cares enough to really force this through. And until that happens, or until carriers just stop like even dealing with SMSs on the network, I don't think Apple has any incentive.
I agree, 100% agree with that. And again, as a consumer, I want this to be opened up. I still am going to come back and say, I think it's ridiculous that Google is putting this all on Apple. They had every opportunity to make one of those apps be at the same level or like the better version of iMessage. The choice is a good thing for a lot of people, but when you have now 11 apps, I keep saying iPhone. I'm so biased. I'm such an iSheep. One thing a lot of people don't remember is RCS has been around for longer than iMessage. This isn't really becoming a big problem now until it's Google's agenda to push it.
And look, this is clearly not their optimal thing. I'm sure if Google was sitting on a locked-in message platform like iMessage, they would be singing a very different tune right now.
They would be doing the same exact thing of, why should we change to come down to your level? You should rise to our level. But what Google has to do now is they have to make something that is better than iMessage.
They're not going to. I think RCS is their fallback just so that they can say they have something. But all that matters is that the Zuck is laughing himself into his piles of cash as WhatsApp continues to dominate the world. But I'm very curious. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And I think it's been a while since we said that. What welcome back to This Is. It's
Yes.
good to be back.
Like, subscribe, and I guess
Ring the notification bell.
yeah,
Ring-a-ling the ding-a-ling bell.
Yeah,
Turn on all
no,
notifications.
we're not doing ding-a-ling bell for this time around.
Are you gonna Tim Cook me right now?
I'm gonna green bubble you into oblivion.
You should subscribe to make sure you don't miss that one.